People, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to episode 2 of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. If you haven't checked out episode 1 yet, make sure you head back to the channel and check that one out. And before we get going on today's episodes, please do smash the likes on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're on the road to 160k. So if you're not watching and if you're watching and you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Help us get on the road to 160 and beyond. In today's episode, delighted to be joined by Lewis again. Hope you're good, bro. We're going to get stuck into all things transfers and the AC Milan game. Mate, let's get into it straight away. Summer window's literally only just closed not so long ago, and Chelsea are already signing players again. Christopher Nkunku, the RB Leipzig forward, all but done and dusted now. 24 years of age. He's going to come in, signed a pre-contract. Chelsea are going to pay slightly more than the £52.8 million release clause in order to secure him. Now, varying reports saying that there was some other interest from some of the other top clubs in the Premier League, but Chelsea have moved fast to get this one done. Going to pay, I don't know, it's going to be probably about 55, 56 million pounds in the end. I personally, I like it, but there's always that slight worry that we've bought from the Bundesliga for half decent money in the past, and it's not worked out, and it's kind of not working out at the moment with Kai Havertz. So there's always that risk. But I mean, mate, what are your thoughts on this? Because it's so early to get this done for next summer. I kind of like it that Bowley's moving quickly and getting deals done. And I think it makes sense as well, because we tried to get him last summer, and he was big money last summer, signed a new contract with a release clause in it, and we've pretty much got our man. I mean, what are your thoughts on that signing?
Yeah, in terms of the way we've gone about it, I really like that we're playing it smart because, yeah, we paid a little bit more than what we would have paid in the summer, but it means we don't get dragged into a bidding war, and it means that we don't have to offer ridiculous wages or anything like that. And apparently it's even impressed Nkunku, which, again, perfect in terms of getting the transfer across the line and getting the player down for it. And it won't be impacted based on whatever happens this season, because let's say we dropped out of the top 4, God forbid, we suddenly look like a much less appealing club as opposed to a Liverpool or I don't know, let's say maybe Arsenal, Tottenham, or just any other side that does make the top 4. They've got that as an advantage over us. So it's good that we've sorted it out now. In terms of the player, like, I've got the same nervousness as you because we have gone from that league before, and he looks good. The one thing that he looks good at that's different to Havertz and Werner is that he seems to be a little bit better in tight spaces. He's better at 1v1 dribbling, and his IQ looks a bit better too. But he will still have to go through that adjustment period in the Premier League. I think from a Chelsea perspective, just don't heighten your expectations like you did when it was Pulisic or Havertz and Werner, because you were saying Pulisic was going to be the Hazard replacement. We said Havertz was going to be the next Lampard or Muller or whatever. Werner was going to be the answer to our goal scoring issues, and none of them have really worked out that way. For Nkunku, he looks like a good player, very similar to Havertz, but should look a bit better. I hope so, but that's it. Just be happy with the transfer and don't act like he's going to be a 30-goal striker or something. He has to show it on the pitch, but just back the transfer. As long as you don't raise your expectations too high, should be fine. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, what do you think of the fact that this very much seems to be kind of a Todd Bowley-driven purchase rather than kind of what Graham Potter wants? I mean, Bild report in the German publication, that this was kind of Bowley's guy that he wanted, and he's kind of pushed ahead and got it done. I'm not saying Potter doesn't want him, but does it concern you that this perhaps looks like it could be more of a board signing rather than a manager signing? Because we've seen it in the past at Chelsea with Roman. He was classic for bringing in, the likes of Shevchenko and whatnot, which clearly the managers didn't want at the time. Does it worry you at all that Bowley's kind of seemingly taken the driving seat on this one and maybe Potter's not been consulted on it too much?
I don't know, really, because it's all a case of speculation. Because if we compare Bowley to Abramovich in terms of just picking players he wants to sign, it is still very early to tell with Bowley, but he's meant to be a lot more driven by data analysis. So if that's the case, maybe he's looked at certain metrics and he thinks that Nkunku's the perfect answer to our problems. And if it's gone through Potter as well, then even better, because at least he's given the go-ahead on that regard. If we compare it to Abramovich, though, like Roman always went for flavor of the month sort of players. Like Havertz was going through brilliant shouts at that point. Timo Werner was going off a 30-goal season. Lukaku had dragged Inter Milan to the Serie A title, for example. Even the likes of Shevchenko was a baller at the time in the 2000s. Fernando Torres, even though he was dropping off when he joined us, he still bagged 2 goals against us that season when we went to Anfield. So I feel like that kind of played into it as well. But it wasn't really smart. With Bowley, we can't really tell whether it's smart or not because we don't even know whether the summer signings were Bowley's or whether they was Tuchel's. Because from what we're hearing, there was just a massive fallout. And the search for a midfielder in the last day or two looked driven from the board and not by Tuchel because they looked at the way we were playing in the last few games. They're like, no, you need a midfielder. We can't do this. We have to go and get one. And then they probably went over his head and did it. So all in all, it is just a case of speculation, but I'm not too worried about the fact that it might be a Bowley signing because it all depends on how he performs, and we just have to wait and see on that one.
I mean, at the end of the day, mate, as you say, like if he comes in and he does really well, I don't care if it's the manager's choice or the owner's choice. As long as the player does well at the club, that's the most important thing. But obviously, another attacker coming in, we know that we need to reinvest in the midfield. So hopefully that is coming because, all the money we're spending on the attack, there's got to be a point now where we can't just keep throwing money at our attacking issues. There comes a point where we've actually got to coach the players to be better because Chelsea at the moment just seem to do we spend big on attackers, they're shit for a season. And then we think the answer to the problem is to throw more money at it rather than trying to improve what we've currently got. I'm not saying we don't need more attackers, we do, or better ones, but there's also the fact that I think actually we could benefit from trying to actually get these guys to do better because they're not bad players. I know we get frustrated with the likes of your Pulisic, your Havertz and whatnot, but these guys aren't shit footballers. They're just not doing it. And I think with Tuchel,
it's a bit debatable.
Let's be honest though, they're not terrible. You don't spend £70 million on a shit football player. I know it's not worth
100 million.
Yeah, true. But do you know what I mean? In general, though, the answer is not to keep throwing money at the attacking problems.
All those things that you're saying about, I don't think we would be that stupid with our money now, but we were with the old regime. 100 million spent on Lukaku when Tuchel didn't necessarily say that he needed him. 72 million on Kai Havertz when Frank Lampard said he didn't need him. It was just put on top of him. Same thing with Torres, same thing with Shevchenko. We've seen it happen so many times. So it's not saying they're terrible players, but it's we've spent so much money on players that aren't Chelsea standard. Look at the top 10 most expensive signings in Chelsea history. And Jorginho is the only one there that isn't an absolute flop. And even half the fan base are on his ass. And that says how poor our spending's been. But it's we did spend that money on crap players. We could be honest about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually mad when you think about how much money we've spent and how few of the signings have actually been a success. It's so few, which just seems ridiculous. And I think it's good now that, it seems to be we're changing our approach in the market because we've got to. We couldn't keep doing what we were doing because the majority of the signings, we're spending big money and none of them were delivering. So hopefully with Nkunku, that might be different. I think it's smart business.
That's also why right now I'm not really judging Bowley too much of players that we're bringing in because look who's coming. Koulibaly, other than the Leeds game, I think has been really good for us. And a lot of people are saying he's been poor, and I really don't think he has. I think he's been solid. Cucurella as well, been brilliant. Fafana's looked solid, even though he started a bit slow in games. Same as Koulibaly. Sterling's dragged our attack, kicking and screaming into goals and assists. And Aubameyang's only just started scoring as soon as he's taken the mask off. So if these are Bowley signings, they're working.
Yeah,
I can't say anything if Nkunku is one because it's not going wrong. We're not spending money on crap players. They've all been performing for us. If anything, it's been the players that are still here that have been letting us down.
Yeah, I mean, I say this summer window just gone. It's been the most pleased I've been with kind of a Chelsea window in terms of profile of players we're signing players with Premier League experience. I think it's been one of the best windows we've had in a long, long time, and I think it's actually going to show that basically all the new signings have hit the ground running pretty much. But I don't know. It obviously goes. This Nkunku signing is going to have a knock-on effect in the attack. I mean, what does that mean for the future of Brozier, who can't really get too many minutes? Signed a new 6-year contract, which it seems a bit odd now. He can't even play. He barely gets any minutes at the moment. And Nkunku comes in, pushes him even further down the pecking order. So I think
he's just been very unlucky with the fact that Tuchel wasn't giving him a lot of faith at the time, and now there's a new manager, and he's only going to go for experienced options. But there should be some game time for him. We're playing 3 games a week for the next 5 to 6 weeks. There has to be at least one start in there for him.
Yeah, there must be. And obviously, I think long-term future of Pulisic and Ziyech is probably going to be affected by that as well. But it's not just in the forward line that we're looking to strengthen. Chelsea are pretty close to getting Josko Gvardiol as well, the young Croatian defender at Leipzig, looking to complete that move as part of a double swoop. Chelsea did bid, I think, big money, sort of maybe 85 million euros at the back end of the summer window to try and get Gvardiol. It was rejected. He signed a new 5-year contract, but there was a release clause in there, and it's believed to be about £43 million. Leipzig obviously turning down big offers in the summer to keep him for one more season. Chelsea looking to get that done, and I think it's pretty close. I mean, I look, Gvardiol's a good young defender, but this one sort of makes a little bit less sense to me, because if you think about what we've got in defensive options, I know Thiago Silva, this is probably going to be his last season. Aspilicueta, I don't really think about him when I'm thinking about defenders, but you know, Chalobah, Fofana, Koulibaly, Cucurella can go in that position. They've got Levi Colwill potentially to come back. They've got Trevor Chalobah. I mean, does this seem, mate, would you think this is a necessary purchase?
All depends on Silva, because I remember when he re-signed last year, like I don't recall who said it, but there was a source coming out saying that was going to be his last season, and then he was going to go back to Brazil. So if the idea is Silva leaves next season, Koulibaly becomes the number one in the middle of a back three, and then we bring in Gvardiol for left centre back, I think that's a great move for us, and we've already halved the price that we were going to pay for him in the summer. So I think that's smart business from us if we can bring him in, because as a young defender, he already looks brilliant in terms of progressive passes, progressive play, and being able to drive the ball forward, as well as recovery pace, as well as tackling. He looks brilliant. His only issues are like aerially and some positional awareness, but he's young and he will get better in that regard. But he's already looking like one of the best up-and-coming centre-backs in the top 5 leagues. And if we can get him for the likes of 40 million, slots in perfectly into our back 5. And him and Fofana and potentially Koulibaly, that's our back 3 for the next 5 years sorted.
I mean, yeah, it's a madness when you think about the defenders we've actually got at the club at our disposal, looking to add Gvardiol as well. Like defensively, like I know we've not been great defensively, letting in a lot of goals at the moment, but we've got some of the best group of defenders in all of football. Like there's not many teams you'll find that have got a better crop of young defenders, or just defenders in general, than we have got. It's now just about getting that blend right of youth and experience. I think Koulibaly, Gvardiol, Fofana would be formidable back 3. So it's definitely exciting times, and it's so nice to see us actually getting business done early, getting good value for money as well, and not sort of being ripped off like we have done in the past. But I mean, just quickly to finish on transfers, you know, this literally kind of coming out 5-10 minutes before we started recording, so we might as well touch on it. Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be allowed to leave Manchester United in January. Been reported in the Independent, I think elsewhere now as well. Bowley was keen to get him in the summer. Tuchel said no several times. I think that was part of a number of large disagreements. Mate, the rumours are going to come back. Do you think we go in for him in January? I don't know if it makes sense to go in for him in January or not. I mean, if it was a 6-month loan deal, I'd be for it. But I think on a permanent deal, it doesn't really make much sense to me.
If he comes in on a 6-month deal, he's just going from bench to bench, and this is the thing. And I don't think a player of that ego can do that. That's half the reason why he wants to get out of United so much. That and the fact he's in the Europa League and he wants to be playing in the Champions League. This made sense in the summer. Like I said, Ronaldo, he doesn't really offer you much except for movement and finishing, but that's all that I wanted.
Yeah.
We have Aubameyang. Now we don't need that anymore. Like all he is just another player that blocks Armando Broja's progress. I know we don't want to like just think, oh, we need to just think of getting youth players in left, right, and centre, but Broja deserves a chance, and Ronaldo would only make sense for 6 months, even if he was starting regularly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Ronaldo and Aubameyang in the same team. I think that would be awful for us. So I think the time for Ronaldo's just come and gone, really. It made sense in the summer. If you really didn't rate Tuchel like that, you should have just pulled the trigger anyway. But it's gone now. There's no reason to get him unless it's for fucking selling a couple shirts or something. But even that's pointless.
Yeah, I just can't see him being a Graham Potter type of player in terms of like at his age that he is now. He's not. Look, don't get me wrong. He's going to score goals, and we need goals in the team. But as you say, we've already got one aging forward in Aubameyang. Like we went with him over Ronaldo in the summer. So why would Ronaldo suddenly now be the answer in January? Like, look, from a fan perspective, of course, you'd love to see him in a Chelsea shirt. But when you actually sit back and think about it, it doesn't really make too much sense on any level. Like, does he improve the team?
Not really.
I don't think he does improve the team that much. Like, he'd be the best goal scorer, the best finisher, but in terms of like for the team, I don't think he makes it any better. I mean, it sounds mad saying that about Ronaldo and Chelsea, like, it doesn't make the team better, but I don't necessarily think he would.
This is a different Ronaldo to the
Yeah.
prime. Like, no one in Europe wanted to go for him.
No,
Literally, clubs left, right, and centre over the summer were saying we don't have interest in bringing Ronaldo in.
Yeah,
the only one that had any interest was us.
Yeah, he's gonna struggle like to find somewhere to go. I honestly think that, like, unless he goes back to Portugal or something, I can't see anywhere he goes in January unless he takes a loan deal and then he's a free agent in the summer. But I don't know. But like at the end of the day, like, I don't think Chelsea will go back in for him. But those links are gonna start coming up
I
again
think we
because of that
might,
interest
which
in the
is the
summer.
worrying part. Because I'm here backing Bowley at the start of this video, but if he goes in for Ronaldo, I'm taking all of it back because it makes no sense.
If Roman was here, it'd be a done deal. I guarantee we'd get him.
He would have came in last summer.
Yeah, he would have come in the summer, probably with Neymar as well. But like, you know, but yeah, with Bowley, I'll reserve judgment. But again, it would be a Chelsea thing to do, even if we don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't totally rule it out. But I mean, moving away from transfers back to matters on the pitch. Obviously, we were both at Selhurst Park on Saturday afternoon. Graham Potter's first Premier League game in charge. Got a win. I think the general consensus was we were pretty lucky to get the win there. 2 moments of brilliance bailed us out. I couldn't believe it when I seen that. That was our first back-to-back wins in the league since March, and it was the first time since December we'd won an away game coming from a goal down, which is madness. Yeah, first time since December we've won an away game where we went behind in, which is mad.
Villa Boxing Day. That was it.
Hadn't won an away game since then where we went behind. So like first back-to-back wins and the first back-to-back win since March and the first time we've won an away game going behind since Villa away last Boxing Day, which is mad. It just goes to show how bad things have been at Chelsea. Obviously, we move on to Milan midweek, massive Champions League game. We're struggling in the group. We need the points. We obviously discussed Palace quite a lot. Just very briefly, mate, any of your thoughts from after the game change at all now that you've had a couple of days to sort of think about it, or still very much the same opinion?
Yeah, it's just awful midfield. Very slow start, which is kind of typical of us this season, but seemed to stable ourselves more after we conceded a goal, but we just had no progressive play in midfield. It all came from Thiago Silva and Fofana. Brilliant goal from Aubameyang, which is exactly why we needed to sign a number 9 with some experience and some instinct about him, because no one else in that team scores that goal. Brilliant finish, and first game back from injury. Well, back to being 100% fit, and he's already scoring. As long as he keeps it up, perfect. Other than that, like, I didn't even think we'd get a winner. Big up Conor Gallagher, because I feel like he felt comfortable with that sort of goal because he scored a very similar one last season against Everton. So it's like you're in the same position. You got that awareness about you and everything. It was a brilliant setup from Christian Pulisic too. And he needs to get given credit because everyone goes for Pulisic like the most out of all of our attackers when he plays like one of the least minutes. And 10 minutes, already made a chance, already made a goal. Just keep that going as well, because I don't want to praise him too much because he's been poor like everybody else has. I just don't think the energy's been the same. But he will get a start either against Milan or against Wolves, because we are going to have to do some sort of rotation, and just hopefully he can keep it up. But at least we got a win. At least we got a win, because that game was screaming draw, and we never make it easy at Selhurst Park, even if our record's a bit decent there. Like, I know it's going to be hard under the first few weeks of Graham Potter, but that midfield is just going to be such a problem for us this season, no matter who we put in there or out. Unless maybe Gallagher can unlock some creative brilliance if he replaces Mason Mount there. I don't know what we do, because I don't think we're going to do much creatively whenever we're playing against low blocks, and that's going to be a consistent problem for us through the season. I can already see it.
No, for sure. I mean, that kind of segues nicely into the next game. Obviously, as I said, got AC Milan at Stamford Bridge Wednesday night. Massive Champions League tie. Obviously, AC Milan got a lot of history. They're doing relatively well in Italy. They're doing reasonably well in the Champions League group, better than us. These two games against Milan are going to define whether we pretty much qualify for the knockout stages or we don't. We saw Graham Potter go the back four against Palace at the weekend. What are you expecting tactically from him tomorrow night? Wednesday night even, because You know, do we go back to a back five? Like, does it go tried and tested back five with the midfield pivot and then a front three, or like one behind two? Or do we stick with the back four? It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to call. There's kind of merits to go with both. Obviously, you'd expect Cucurella to come back into the team now that he's fit again. I don't know about whether.
I heard he just came out of hospital. But
yeah, he was back. He was back training today, so I think he's.
Okay.
I think he's all right. But it's an interesting, like, sort of tactical thing what we're going to go with, isn't it? I mean, would you expect to stick with the four? I wasn't that impressed with the back four against Palace. And if we play like we did against Palace, I mean, against Milan,
it was
I think
mainly
we could be in trouble.
Chilwell that let me down in that four.
Yeah.
Fofana, he did have the mistake for the goal, but after that, he was fine for me. So I think overall he had a good performance. Chilwell looks shaky, but it's not like I'm getting at him. I don't want to single him out because I understand coming back from the ACL, not playing regular football for about 9 months is going to affect your in-game management, your trust in your own body in certain situations and everything. So I'm willing to like ride with Chilwell through that because it's obviously going to take a lot longer than people expect. And Cucurella at least softens the blow a little bit. Yeah. But in terms of back four, like my only problem is the midfield and the attack. And this is why I always say we cannot play a back four. Like our best football will always be with a back five. It can't be with a four because our creativity only comes from the wing backs. And you push them further back when you play in a back four, and then you get less out of them because only one can go forward at a time, as opposed to the pair of them being able to go forward and back. So as long as Koulibaly's fit or Fofana's fit, back five, because we're not going to create nearly as much chances relying on a three in midfield. I know everyone wants it and everything like that. We are not good going forward when we play that well. There is nothing in the middle. So, yeah, five at the back if we can do it. But it all depends on whatever happened with Koulibaly because he was out of the Crystal Palace game as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on the bench. He was unused. I mean, I don't know. He was on the bench, mate. He was unused sub. He's been unused sub in both of Potter's games. I don't know if he's not fit or Potter doesn't like what he sees. I don't really know. It'd be interesting to see if he features tomorrow on Wednesday night because ultimately, like if it goes a third game on the spin and he's not in the team, you start to think, well, hang on, man, what's going on here? But like you, mate, I think we're better suited to a five. I agree that whilst defensively in a four, we're not too bad. You massively limit, as you said, our main attacking outlet, which is the wing backs. They can still get forward, but they don't get forward anywhere near as much. And we haven't got the creative players in the attack or in the midfield to warrant us playing conventional fullbacks.
I don't get the obsession with
it. We don't have it.
I really don't. People think we're just going to create more and we're going to be a lot more attacking because we play with one less defender, apparently, when the wing backs are always used as midfielders as well, which is why every winger that we were linked with is being linked to playing at wing back. Like the likes of Rafinha, like the likes of who else did we get linked with? I think Chiesa last season as well. They always get linked to playing as wing backs because we use them as midfielders too. So I don't get this obsession that we're going to be more creative with a four at the back because we never are. And people always just ask for it again.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, mate. It doesn't make sense to four at the back. We've played it a number of times. We played it yesterday. We played it at times last season. It's no better than playing a back five. It just simply isn't.
We were worse last season when we played the four.
Yeah, no, we were. I mean, there's obviously I don't want to touch on the defense too much. It pretty much picks itself. Midfield is where it's interesting, and I want to discuss Mason Mount because again at the weekend, playing in that preferred number 8 position, I thought he was quite poor. I'm a big fan of Mason Mount. I like what he's done and rate him as a player. You know, great goal and assist contributions last season, back-to-back Chelsea Player of the Year. But we have not seen that at all this season. I don't think he's played well in one game, maybe other than Spurs. And his form is a big concern. And obviously, Graham Potter picked him against Salzburg. Fine, he was poor. Picked him against Palace. He was poor. He got subbed off. Do you think he's going to pick him again? Should Mount be being played? Because ultimately, I don't think he should be. I think like Conor Gallagher on high confidence from that goal against Palace, it would be a big call. But I think Mount needs to go on the bench for a game or two. Like if not this game, then against Wolves.
Who you replacing with depends on the setup. Like we agree 5 at the back. Are we doing 2 in midfield or 3 in midfield?
I'll probably say it'll probably be 2, won't it? Because it'll have like Sterling, Havertz, and Aubameyang probably again, won't he? Maybe
Yeah, but I
Pulisic
could
might
see
start.
Sterling on the left,
Yeah.
and then like we did against Salzburg,
Mm.
and then maybe if we went 5 if we went 5 in mid, if we went 3-5-2 or something like that,
Yeah.
I could see Gallagher come in for Mason Mount potentially because they are stylistically very similar. If it's a 2 in midfield, then Gallagher can't play either
No.
because he just struggles there too. Kante isn't fully fit yet, and the last thing we need to do is rush him back because he'll go straight back on the injury table. And Kovacic and Jorginho didn't even look great either. They look just as bad personally. So I don't know. I think we'd go 3 in midfield again. Zakaria potentially starting because Jorginho came off injured. Kovacic, I think, would get another game just by default, really. And then probably I'd go Gallagher. But if he goes Mount again, then it's whatever. But if Mount plays poorly, I'm blaming Potter.
Yeah, I mean, where do you stand on Mason Mount at the moment, mate? You know, he's had a terrible season, hasn't he? Like, I mean, I don't know what's happened to him. I know he's still a young player, and you can't play well every game, but you can't go 7 or 8 games playing badly. You just can't without being dropped at a big team. You have to be. There has to be an accountability and a standard.
Like this is the thing. Like last season, we didn't really single out Mason Mount the way we did with other attackers because he managed to pop out with more goals and assists than all of them. So he was like the last of our worries. But I always said best of a bad bunch, really, because his decision making, his creativity still needed improvement. Now this season, we've gone straight back to 0-0 at the start of the season. He hasn't picked up. This is still at 0-0. And this is the problem. And now all the issues that he had are now being put further into the spotlight because he can't hide behind a goal or assist now. There's no creativity. There is no goals and assists popping up. He's getting dispossessed for fun. His awareness is dropping. We even benched him before against West Ham and he came off the bench and he was poor. Havertz got benched. He managed to come off the pitch and have it off the bench and have an impact. So I don't know, but like Mount can't be playing right now because he's an absolute detriment to us. I want to see him pick things up. I really do. I don't want it to be a case like I want to see him get sold or anything or have a personal issue against a player, but the performances aren't warranting a start. They're not, and it's just not been good enough. So it all depends on Potter, but he has to be getting dropped. He has to.
Yeah, there's got to be. I always like worried that like managers will always have like certain players that are like deemed untouchables, but right now you've got to earn that right. And at Chelsea,
no untouchables except James and Silva.
That's it. But like you've got even Mason Mount, I'm thinking right. I'm an England international, just playing regularly for Chelsea, but at Chelsea there's got to be standards, and I think right now the Chelsea standards for players they're in the gutter. Like I'm seeing people praising players because they're running about. It's like it's a thing. Are things this bad?
Never been lower as a football fan base than they are right now. And I said this on Twitter after the game. Literally anybody except Silva, Sterling, and Reece James. I forgot to put him in the untouchable bracket earlier as well. But anyone except them three can drop a 5 out of 10, and people are going to sit here and say it was an outstanding performance. People said Kepa was outstanding on Saturday.
He was good.
He did his job. That's it. Like, he was good. I completely agree. Didn't have any outstanding moment. Didn't have a wow, what a save moment. But he did his job. He was there when we needed him to be. He was commanding. And just build on it. But people saying outstanding is ridiculous. People said Havertz was great against Crystal Palace. No, not even Salzburg. Salzburg, he was good for 10 minutes and then turned into a ghost. Crystal Palace, all he had was like non-threatening passes in non-threatening areas. And when he was in the final third, he was ignoring passes and had poor decision making. The same thing Mason Mount gets criticized for every single week. But because he didn't lose the ball as much, everyone's saying he played well. Our standards are in the absolute gutter. Only world-class performance I've seen from Chelsea players, James, Silva, Sterling. Nobody else. Nobody else is near them right now.
No, it's true. And until our standards get better and until like players realize that there's like an accountability, and I think right now at Chelsea as well, for me,
the players as well. Yeah, exactly. You have fucking Havertz, right? Shushing the Chelsea fans. after
off the bench and
one
scored.
DNA in 6 games. We have now had another 4 games, and he is on 0 GNA.
Yeah, it's
The
mad.
nerve.
But I also think that like there's a like a sort of because there's a lack of competition for certain places, certain players, i.e. Mount, Havertz, etc. I know there's a bit more competition now. Mount's playing in an 8, but there's certain players that know, regardless of how shit they play every week, they're still going to play. So there's no pressure on them to warrant playing well. Like you would look at like, for example, Mourinho, like not scared to make a change. You would see in some of the games latterly under Tuchel, like towards the end of his reign.
Do you remember when Jose brought Matic on for a game and then took him back off after 10 minutes?
Yeah. And I remember a game against Fulham a long time ago. He first 20 minutes was crap. He made 2 subs after 20 minutes. Like we don't have managers like that anymore. But that's beside the point. But in terms of like players, they're too comfortable at Chelsea. There's certain players that are too comfortable. They know they're going to play.
Tuchel, though.
They're going to play every week.
But Mount Havertz, do you remember how many weeks we were saying bench to free?
It was every week. It was every week for about 5 or 6 weeks, and then he finally did it. But it was kind of too late by then. I just think there's got to be at a top club. There's got to be a situation where if you don't play well for a couple of games, you're on the bench. You can't be like applauding mediocre performances. Like when you see players playing badly, like Mount, Havertz, etc. Just as a couple of examples, like. It's then not right that then they're suddenly then playing again for the next couple of weeks. Like that isn't the standards at this football club. The standard at this football club is the very best. And if you don't perform at the top level, you should be benched.
You know what that does as well? Because it has a domino effect when you do those things too. People saying Pulisic and Ziyech's heads are not here. Do you want to know why their heads aren't here? Because they watch Mount and Havertz play poorly every single week. They never get picked to start to replace them. And then they only get 5-10 minutes at the end of each game. And then you wonder why their heads drop, their motivation isn't good enough, and they don't come off the bench and have impact consistently. It's because they don't get given opportunities to play over players that are playing poorly. Pulisic's only start was against West Ham as a second striker with Sterling. Yeah. What kind of bogus front two is that? What are they going to do? There's no focal point. And then Pulisic will come off and they'll be like, oh, you asked him to start and he did nothing. Well, you didn't set him up to even play well. How do you play two 5'9" and under strikers against a deep block against West Ham with no focal point?
Yeah, no, it makes no sense, and it's demoralising for players, as you say. Like you train, you turn up to training, you do your best week in, week out, like day after day. You get to match day, you see the same shit being served up by the same players in your position. What are you supposed to do to get minutes? Like these guys, I'm not saying they're going to be any better, but they deserve a chance. You can't not give these players a chance when what's on the pitch is doing so badly. And until that kind of attitude changes, then this is always going to be a problem because players think they can get away with just playing shit. And until that changes, it breeds a culture issue. It breeds a mentality issue at the club. And I think that's why we've had so many mentality issues at Chelsea within the squad, where players' heads just drop when things aren't going well, because they just get to play when they're playing shit. And until that changes, things aren't going to improve.
Hard to change, though.
He's got to change it. But I mean, mate, just back to the Milan game to round out. Obviously, we got 1 point, I think, from the first 2 games. Not a great start. So this is going to be a tricky game. We need to get some points on the board. I think we need 4 points minimum from the Milan double header. Score prediction for tomorrow night, for Wednesday night. Sorry, you feeling confident or not really?
This Chelsea side, I couldn't be confident against anybody. They have to instill that in me, and I've been saying that since match day 1, and then they still haven't instilled that confidence in me. So I don't know. I'll stick with my 1-0 Jorginho penalty predictions until I see otherwise. Actually, no, we'll say 2-0. I'll give Aubameyang another goal as well. But that's me being optimistic. I don't think it'll be that easy, but I just hope it is.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. I hate not predicting Chelsea to win, but at the moment, I just don't see us winning that many games right now. And I think this one could be much of the same. I'm going to say I'm going to go the 1-1 draw. I just think it'll be a draw. I don't think we've got that many goals in us, and
that would make AC Milan away basically make or break.
It would be must win in the San Siro, but I'm going to go for a 1-1. But I mean, you just never know. The thing is, you don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up. That's the problem. Like, we might turn up and we'll be really good, or we'll turn up and we'll be awful. There don't really seem to be any in between at the moment. So like, it's so hard to predict. But yes, these are good points to round out episode 2. Lewis, thanks for your time as always, bro. Really appreciate it. Guys, remember to smash the like on the video and subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV. If you enjoyed what myself and Lewis have been saying, then feel free to check out and subscribe to our personal channels, both linked in the description below. And we'll catch you in the next episode soon. But until then, guys, take care and up the Chelsea.